Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to express the board's deepest condolences to the family of Grayson Zess, a student here at East Troy High School who passed away last week. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor his memory. Thank you. I'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. This meeting of the East Troy School District Board of Education and all other meetings of the board are open to the public in compliance with state statute. Notice of the meeting has been sent to the media and/or has been publicly posted in an attempt to make the citizens of the district aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Any discussion or changes? All in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Public participation. Is there anybody who would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to the financial report. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? The motion carries. All right, discussion action items. The first one, staffing retirements.
We don't have any.
No retirements. All right. Staffing resignations.
All right, we do have a few tonight, starting on page 47 of your packet. Dear Ms. Keene, Dr. Hibner, and school board members, please accept this letter as my formal resignation at the conclusion of the 2024-2025 school year. Having graduated from East Troy High School way back when, and then still teaching here for 15 years, East Troy High School holds a very special place in my heart. Still, I feel it is the right time for me to step away from education and transition full-time to our family business. I am deeply grateful to have had the opportunity to return to East Troy High School as an educator and give back to the school and the community I've called home my entire life. Many thanks to all the great East Troy High School colleagues I've had the pleasure of collaborating with over the last 15 years to help students experience success and cross that stage at graduation. I am proud to say I was part of East Troy High School, both as a student and as an educator, and I look forward to seeing all the great things East Troy Community School District does in the years to come. Continue to fight the good fight and go Trojans. Sincerely, Melissa Burke. To whom it may concern, I would like to inform you that I am resigning from my position as the 4K special education teacher at Little Prairie Primary School, effective June 9th, 2025. After careful consideration and reflection, I have decided it is time for me to move on to a new opportunity. I would like to express my deep appreciation for the opportunity and learning experiences this position has given me during my time at the East Troy Community School District. It has been a pleasure working alongside such an amazing team, and I will always cherish the memories and experiences I have gained at my time here. My last day will be June 9th, 2025, and I will ensure that all my outstanding work is completed by then. I am grateful for the guidance and support you have provided me during my time here, and I wish you all at East Troy Community School District the best for the future. Best wishes, Lexi Runnels. To whom it may concern, I am unfortunately writing this letter with the purpose of terminating my employment as an alternative teacher at the East Troy High School effective immediately. I have greatly enjoyed the community and high school, specifically under the overall leadership of Superintendent Dr. Chris Hibner and Principal Stacy Keene. Dr. Hibner is an elite leader who welcomed me with open arms and was absolutely wonderful in my time. I think the world of Stacy Keene and have the greatest respect for her, both as a person and principal. She is excellent in all she does, treats everyone the right way, and has created a winning culture that has led to great success. It is the people of East Troy that I will miss the most and what makes it the most difficult to resign. The reason for my resignation is that I was offered yesterday a position on the men's basketball coaching staff at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Coaching basketball at the college level is my true passion, and this is simply an opportunity I cannot pass up. This will also allow me to continue to be home with my 83-year-old father who suffers from Parkinson's disease. I love everything about East Troy, the position in which I tried to better and the students I was able to work with. My decision has zero to do with that. I simply need to follow my passion. I apologize for any inconveniences this caused. I am very grateful for the wonderful experience and wish everyone all the best. Sincerely, Julian Swartz. Dear Mr. Trindle, Administration, students and families of the East Troy Community School District, I am writing to formally resign from my position as art teacher at East Troy Middle School at the end of the 24-25 school year. My last day will be Monday, June 9th. It is with bittersweet news that I celebrate the life event of moving to West Bend, Wisconsin, and acceptance of a new position in the Fond du Lac School District. My time at East Troy Middle has been both rewarding and inspiring. I want to express my heartfelt thanks to the support, encouragement, and opportunities I've received starting my educational journey at East Troy Middle School. I feel I have truly grown as a professional educator working with such talented students and dedicated colleagues. It has been a privilege to work in this school district and be part of building the middle school's culture. I am proud of the creative growth we fostered together. Thank you again for the opportunity to be part of this wonderful community. I will always carry fond memories of my time at East Troy. Most sincerely, Hannah Sherby. And then our last one, to whom it may concern, I, Brian Squares, am formally resigning from my position as Dean of Students at East Troy Middle School, effective at the end of the 24-25 school year. I have accepted an administrative position in another district for the upcoming school year. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Adam Trindle and the entire East Troy Middle School staff for everything they have taught me over the past 2 years. The experiences and lessons I've gained in this building have truly prepared me for the next step in my career. I also extend my gratitude to Dr. Hibner and the East Troy Community School District leadership team for their support and guidance. I will always remember my time in East Troy fondly and will cherish the lasting relationships I've built with students, staff, parents, and the community. I wish nothing but continued success for East Troy Community School District, and I'm confident the district is well positioned to thrive in the years ahead. If there are questions or an exit interview is desired, I'm more than willing to accommodate that request. Thank you again for everything. Best regards, Brian Squares.
Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, staffing recommendations up next.
Yes, happy to bring this one forward here. This is a packet that you just received just before the meeting, so it should be there in front of you. The position that I'm asking for your consideration is for the elementary counselor at Prairie View. As you know, Cassie Rice, or may know, Cassie Rice was our elementary counselor, previously the middle school counselor. Adam Trindle and I keep arm wrestling, and Cassie is leaving Prairie View because she really has the heart for that middle school age range. We've had some great conversations, and so she's going back to the middle school where we know that she will be a great fit over there for students and staff. So with that, Amanda Jones and I met with a team of individuals to identify who our next counselor may be. We had checked out about 9 applications, interviewed 5 candidates. I put in there, as far as the screening process goes, the nature of this position requires an individual to deliver the standards of the heart. We talk a lot about academics and literacy and math, but this is an individual that we're really looking for, who certainly is considerate of the whole child, supporting families and developing community connections. With that, our team met, we went through the interview process, and it came down to a top 2 finalists. References were checked, and we would like to be able to move forward with Erica Getz. Erica actually stopped. I invited her over to our district earlier this afternoon to kind of take a little tour of our building, check it out, and really see what we're all about and hear a little bit more about what we're about. Her background is a couple years of experience at Hustiford School District, very small school district. It's about 300 students in total, and so she had the position of a K-12. So we really felt like that was kind of a nice complementary feature that she brings to us, understanding the young child all the way of like what that transitional needs will be at the middle school and the high school. We also have had her complete a True Colors personality quiz. This has become a popular quiz over the last few years, where we get to know the individual. It's like a quick little survey of who individuals are, and if you're a color blue, and nobody else has to disclose their color here, but you might be interested in it. She came up as a blue, which really like lands in that sensitive feeling type of person, which you would expect a counselor to be, right? Kind, caring, happy, gets along, helpful, and like really sensitive to feelings. References were done. We talked with the district administrator and a classroom teacher. They described her as going above and beyond, a great communicator, strong relationships, positive and open to feedback. And then I thought this was interesting too. Like we always ask an interview question, like the last interview question is to, in one word, describe how students would describe you, colleagues would describe you, and your supervisor would describe you. And so she shared with us that, well, as a student would describe her as funny and or an advocate, colleagues would describe her as a good listener, and her supervisor would describe her as reliable. And then when I do the references, I kind of parrot that back. Like, hey, does this match? Like, what would you say? And like, it was really uncanny. Like, it was almost like verbatim the words that they used to describe her. So I thought that was a really kind of a cool thing. So you have the whole packet in front of you as far as some of her additional experience and her letter. So we'd ask for your consideration for this hire.
I get to present the next one, which is Katie Verley for District Library Media Specialist. So you'll remember that Connie Amon was serving in this role, and then we brought a impact need forward of increasing the hours of this position to better support our library staffing across the district. Our libraries are currently staffed by library aides or assistants that really are responsible for running the programming in those buildings with the support and guidance and leadership of the library media specialist. So currently, Katie is serving as the library aide in Prairie View, where she teaches library lessons to students in 3rd through 5th grade. And we have been working with her this year. She's been working with Connie, and through that, she really discovered a passion for the library, especially in that leadership role. So when we posted the position, Katie was among 4 applicants that applied. None of the applicants, including Katie, have licensure currently as a library media specialist. And of those 4 applicants, Katie was the only one who was or had experience in a school library. So she was the only applicant that we brought for an interview. I think that really underscores what we've talked about previously when this position has been posted. It's very hard to fill. You'll remember that public school districts in Wisconsin have to have a licensed library media specialist on staff in order to receive those common school funds, which makes up a very large majority of our library funding. So with that in mind, Katie is going to be working towards her licensure. While she is unlicensed, she will be supported by Connie Amon, who will continue to contract with us remotely, providing leadership and support with Katie, and also allowing us to report her as our licensed library media specialist, who will remain on staff, though certainly as our impact need talked about at a much lower rate. Originally, we were planning to contract with CISA 2, which would have cost approximately $10,000 to use that resource for 10 days out of the school year. We are able to cut that number in half and get much more support from Connie, who's been willing to contract with us. So we're really excited about that. She knows our programming, and obviously the savings there are a nice bonus. So Katie is going to be our library media specialist. We interviewed her, Amy, Lindsay, and myself. She has some really great references that talked about herself as a dedicated professional, being eager to learn, takes initiative to make the library the best it can be, and they described her as having an enthusiasm for empowering students not only to read but to learn. So we're very excited to welcome Katie into this new role.
Good evening. I have one hiring recommendation for you tonight. Excited to bring this forward to you. We heard Brian Square's resignation letter. Sorry to see him go, and congrats on him pursuing his administrative career. Wish him the best of luck, and definitely thank him for all of his work the last 2 years. So we posted the Dean of Students position for about the last 2 weeks, received 11 applicants. We did offer 5 interviews. 3 of those candidates accepted, so we did conduct 3 interviews. Team consisting of a number of district-wide and middle school representatives. They gave us a good spread of all different areas in our school and district. Through that interview process, we did come with one internal candidate that we are really excited about. And we offered this position to Jessie Smith, one of our current ELA teachers, who just recently received her master's in educational leadership from UW Oshkosh. So she does want to pursue a career in school administration, and we are really happy that she wants to stay in East Troy with us and start her career as a dean of students. So sorry to kind of lose her in the classroom, but hoping we can tap into those skills, do coaching, and provide a great leadership in that Dean of Students position. Jessie has 14 years of experience in education, the last 5 being at East Troy Middle School. Like I said, she is an outstanding ELA teacher for us, but excited for her to grow in this new role as well. She's been an active member on our PBIS team the last 5 years, strong leader within our building, and most recently was a winner of our district-wide staff school spirit contest. So she definitely bleeds East Troy all through and through. So excited to have Jessie taking on a new role in our building this year.
Good evening. The high school has 2 recommendations for your consideration tonight. We'll start with the tech ed position. 1.0 high school technical education due to a retirement of Mike Moss. There was 10 applications received for this position. We interviewed 3 candidates, and 2 were in person, 1 was virtual. We asked the candidates a total of 15 questions, and the person that we selected, or the committee selected, was Parker Schrepfer. Parker is a journeyman carpenter, so if you go to, in your packet, the second page is his credentials from his completion program of his apprenticeship, and then also Local Union 231, his journeyman certificate. So Parker does not have a traditional 4-year college degree. So this is something that in the field of tech ed has become more prevalent, but we are using his, it's called an experience-based licensure. We are using his experience as a carpenter. His reference spoke to his plethora of skills, including welding, including CAD, including all of these different skills. We'll work with Gateway to get the courses that he teaches transcripted as well. So we are excited for Parker to come back and join us here at East Troy. He's also an alum, so he graduated from East Troy. Yeah, so are you talking about the Fab Lab aspect of it? So we have that built in. Taylor has been working with Parker already. He's been in. Do you want to speak to that? Okay, go ahead.
Met with Parker a couple times. He is going to be working with Mr. Maz and Mr. Hoff, our two tech ed teachers currently, to make sure that he is up to snuff on all of those areas. Additionally, Parker has worked in the Fab Lab on Thursday nights, that community night, since he has graduated. So he may know that room better than any of us. Really skilled with the tools and all of those pieces. We talked a lot with the tech ed teachers about feeling comfortable that he would be able to teach the wide variety of classes that we offer, and they feel very comfortable with that. He will not be teaching like robotics or industrial control systems. Those will remain with Nolan Pavelski, who's kind of a part-time member of the tech ed department, but he will be taking on some of those Fab Lab classes as well as the CAD. Correct.
Yeah, so People Power is a community partner of ours for YA. We haven't used them throughout this capacity of what you're talking about, but we can certainly reach out to them in a different capacity than youth apprenticeship and see if there's other opportunities there for us. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions on the tech ed? Second one is business education. We have one business education teacher for next year. We're looking to fill that one position. So we held interviews. Nolan Pavelski was on that team for CTE and received 4 applicants for that. We held 2 interviews on Wednesday, June 11th, so last week. Asked them 12 questions and then toured the building as part of the process. We offered the position to Michael Zolexky. He has a Master's of Arts in Education in Business Education. So that is key because that really helps us with the transcripted portion. So if you have your master's in the content area, that really helps with, it's almost guaranteed that we will become transcripted in all of the accounting and all of those upper level business classes. Interesting history, he too has education as a second career. So he has had 4 years of teaching experience. Prior to that, he was an adjunct professor and a baseball coach at Cardinal Stritch. He worked in the private sector. And his references stated that he's hardworking and dedicated to the school and students. His quality of work is outstanding, and they would rehire him without hesitation. So we bring to you, Mike, his resume is also attached. Yes. Yes, we have multiple classes that go into varying depths. So some of our entry-level classes, including personal finance, which is now a graduation requirement, touches that not into how to do your own taxes, all the way up to accounting, where you are ensuring you're managing books.
Yeah, we do have a business law class that covers some of that. And then, like Stacy said, accounting is much more the business side, whereas personal finance is much more the home financial management side, but does cover those pieces and different levels of intensity.
And then accounting class that we offer here is the transcripted credit accounting class that even UW-Madison takes. So it is a very rigorous accounting class, kind of a capstone class, if you will. Thank you.
Okay, I also have a recommendation. And this is for the Title IX coordinator and pupil service support position. That is a newly created position for the 25-26 school year that we had recently discussed. We had surprisingly 11 applications for that position. I know there was some question about like, how many applications will you actually get for that position? We got 11, so we were really thrilled with that. We did hold 4 interviews of varying different licensures. So we interviewed people who had school psychology backgrounds, social work backgrounds, as well as school counselor backgrounds. And so it was really interesting to kind of see how that all played out. The folks that served on that interview team were largely from the secondary level, as well as Kimplu as our school social worker district-wide. And we had a verbal interview with these individuals, and then they also had to complete they had 30 minutes to complete a Title IX scenario with a series of like processes and procedural questions based on our board policy to kind of gauge their understanding, how they could interpret policy. Some ethical pieces were part of that as well. So they each had 30 minutes. No technology, so there could be no like AI answering of that. And so with that, we are really excited to bring to you tonight Mr. Andy Van Sistine. So Andy, if you remember Andy had previously worked here at the middle school as the school psychologist. So just a little recap of his experience. Andy earned his bachelor's in psychology in 2005, 2008 his master's in school psych, 2012 his education specialist from UW Stout, and then he began his career in school psychology for CISA 10 with a number of different districts, and where he landed then in Franklin Public Schools, and then here in East Troy as the school psychologist and advanced learner coordinator for our secondary for 4 years from August 2020 to August of 2024. So he's actually only been gone for this previous school year, 24-25 school year, where he was working in Elmbrook School District as a school psychologist. References of Andy indicate that he is really great at building relationships with students and staff and provides toolboxes for student needs. Also that he's a self-starter, is knowledgeable of processes, is extremely dependable, data-driven, seeks solutions and out-of-the-box thinking to support learners, and is willing to put in extra time to do things well. And then additionally, his references indicate he's a great communicator, is kind, calm, and has a great sense of humor, is extremely personable, and flips the script on deficit thinking. So we're really excited to bring forth Mr. Van Sistine's recommendation for our Title IX and pupil service support position.
Anyone else? All right, I think we got 6 here. So I'll move to accept the hiring recommendations for Erica Gates, the Prairie View counselor, Katie Verley for District Library Media Specialist, Jesse Smith for the Middle School Dean of Students, Parker Schrepfer for the High School Technical Education, Michael Zalecki for High School Business Education, and Andrew Van Sistine for Title IX Coordinator and Pupil Services Support. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Donations? No donations? Okay. Approval of fourth grade promotion policy.
So I'm presenting on behalf of Amy. So this is a policy that we talked about in depth at the last meeting. This is associated with Act 20 and those personal reading plans. We're bringing it forward after one reading because it needs to be approved before July 1. But just a reminder, it has a delayed implementation. So we don't have to implement for a couple of years. And so this is really just our looking at this policy, making sure that we understand it and agree with it when it comes time to implement. But we are bringing it forward for approval after one reading. If there are any questions, I will do my very best to answer them.
I have one, Taylor, and that is on the agenda we have approval of fourth grade promotion policy, but throughout the policy it says third grade promotion.
That's correct.
So
It should be third
it's
grade
a third
promotion.
grade, correct?
I will move the approval of the third grade promotion and retention policy. Where's our number here? 54? What is it? Is it up here? Policy 5411, third grade promotion and retention. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Approval of East Troy School Board meeting dates for the 2025-2026 school year.
Yeah, these were passed out just tonight, beginning with the first one, you'll see at the top, for July 7th, 2025 at 6. And then from there on, one per month basically, except for the month of August. We always tentatively plan 2, which would be the 11th and the 25th. And then 2 in April, which is tentatively planned for the 6th and 20th. Those are due to the factors of various factors at that time of year, which we usually indicate that we have to have 2 during those months. So if for some reason we wouldn't need it, we would obviously decide that the meeting prior. And then everything else is the same, with most of them occurring in the East Troy High School Library, but obviously the 22nd of September, which is our annual meeting, which is set always at the previous annual meeting, that would be in the East Troy High School Lecture Hall. And then we always have the October one being at Little Prairie Primary, November being at Prairie View, December being at East Troy Middle School, and then returning back to the East Troy High School Library. And again, all meetings are set for 6 unless altered by the school board. This does not include any special meetings either. I've had somebody inquire about that. Special meetings are set due to the fact they're a special meeting, so we set them as they become known.
I'll move the approval of the school board meeting dates for the 2025-2026 school year as described in the document. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
And these will all get posted on the web page too, just so everyone's aware.
All right. Discussion and action, if appropriate, of head coaching hiring process.
And start with this, and then I'll have Kirsten interject and anybody else on the board. I know that there had been, Steve had brought this up, and I appreciate it. He had a discussion with me and then had a discussion with Mr. O'Leary. I know at the last board meeting that was brought up to everybody, and so we have it on as a discussion action item, depending upon where this would go. But some of the discussion is about head coaching and whether or not for any recommendation of a head coach, would we want that to come forward to the full board for a motion second and ultimately a majority of approval before moving forward? At this point in time, that has not been the case, right? So the question would be, do we want to have that become a practice? The second thing is, if that's not the intent or what's desired, then at least having it be brought forth, which by all means too, right, would be, well, we'd like it to at least have a synopsis brought forward in regards to any head coach being brought forward from now on, which Brian, I believe, has done for the last few head coaches. So the synopsis would look very similar to the teaching synopsis, supervisor synopsis, administrator synopsis. So at least keeping the board very well informed of not only the opening, but how many candidates applied, why was there an opening, and who's being recommended, and then some background to that individual. So I think the real question tonight amongst the board would be, do you want, and of course we would be doing the praxis of the synopsis, but I still think a motion on that should be, but do we want at least a motion of a hiring synopsis permanently being brought forward, which by all means we can do, or going down even one step more, and that is, do we want a motion to for consideration of having any and all head coaches brought before the board for determination of approval? With that being said, Kirsten, do you want to add something off of that I think, again, we're open to any of those, but you need to know what it means to approve of either of the one, especially about the hiring.
So by taking on the hiring, you would also then take on the termination process. So right now, in a termination for an employee, you're for a support staff or somebody who's not contracted, you're further down on like the grievance process. Whereas if you are the ones to hire, you would also be the ones to fire. So it would to terminate an employee. So there would be two levels that you would hold as it relates to head coaches. If you take on one, you take on both. As Dr. Hibner said, if that's something that you choose to do, or if you would choose to do the synopsis, whatever questions you have, we're happy to answer. We will have to look at what the grievance process would look like if you decided to take on both the hiring and the termination process, because you are part of the grievance process right now. So that's something we would have to explore a little bit further, if an IHO would still be an option, or if it would come back to the board. So there'd be some components we would need to figure out as it relates to the grievance process if you chose to do so.
I don't know, I've always been of the opinion that the school staff, they know better than anybody else who to hire and fire. I just don't know if it's appropriate that the school board get involved in all the hiring and firing, and I don't know what advantage that would be. I mean, I feel like we're trying to micromanage you, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think the people that hire and fire, that have always done, know what they're doing. There's a reason for it. They know things that we don't know, and I personally don't think we should get involved. That's my opinion.
So what would be the difference between all these ones that we just, today, we did this, between this and a head coach? We don't fire these people, right? That administrator is the one who decides to fire these people. What would be the difference in a head coach scenario?
Yeah. We make a recommendation to fire. So ultimately, if we wanted to terminate a teacher contract, we actually aren't the ones who ultimately make that decision. The school board does. So what would happen is, similarly, like if it got to, we would still run our processes as normal, but instead, like right now, we move forward with termination. If it's not a teacher contract, the board is not involved in that process. But if it's a teacher, or if it's somebody that the school board ultimately hires or puts their stamp of approval, we would have to only recommend to the board, and you would have the final say.
So instead of right now, for support staff, so I would talk as a head coach in the extracurricular support staff role. So that would be, the only way the board's getting involved in the decision by us as administrators is if that employee elects to grieve it, right? And then we have that process where before it even goes to the board, it goes to an IHO, impartial hearing officer. And then from the impartial hearing officer, it may go to the next step, which would be the board. And then we would have that special meeting, and all would be presented. And you guys would determine in that special meeting how you want to run that meeting, So there's multiple ways, if you look at our policy, of how that could be run, which will be determined by you, and I would imagine with the guidance of Shayna, our attorney, for you, the board, which could be gathering of all information and making your decision, or saying we're willing to have a hearing and listen to both parties, That's really at the discretion of your guys' decision, with obviously consult from Shayna on that. That's how it would run now. The difference would be, you guys would have to have the meeting prior, so we'd have a special meeting to determine whether or not are you going to approve of the termination, which again gets a little tricky. Like we said, we need to work through that. Like, how does that then determine if 2 steps later it's coming back to you? Granted, you'd have new information from the IHO, but that would be the only new information you would have, if that makes sense. So.
Do we know how other districts handle coaches? Is it typically like we currently do, or is it mixed?
It's mixed. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's, we wouldn't be the only one either way. So it is mixed. We would just need to flush out if we changed it, what's it mean for that next step, how we do it now, right? In regards to, so what will be different when it goes to the grievance process than what the board just decided 2 steps prior? Unlike a teacher contract or an administrative contract, for that matter, right? Those are, you got 2 different things that could occur, right? You have non-renewals that can happen with them, which are required by certain deadlines to inform the employee of that non-renewal. And it's a preliminary non-renewal and a final non-renewal. And you have to meet deadlines for that, or else it can't be initiated, right? And then the employee, as we know, has rights when they're provided that preliminary non-renewal, right? For support staff, you don't do preliminary non-renewals or renewals. It's just termination, right? So you're determining whether or not are you going to extend the contract or not. They're making sense. So there's not those requirements for timelines for that, but there are the processes components still. Yeah.
If we want to require a synopsis, aside from the voluntary ones that have more recently been done, would we be able to say that we want to have that in the board packet rather than being handed it like just prior to the meeting? Is that something we can stipulate, or is that make sure that it's in the packet so it's something that could be reviewed if you know, rather than just being handed at the meeting? Is that something we can do? Okay.
I see no reason why we're going to be hired over a weekend, right? So, really, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, even if it happened on a Friday, and I know packets are usually done on a Thursday and Friday, it's dependent, right? So, I don't think we have interviews on Friday necessarily we're hiring, but if we did, well, then we just need to make sure we're getting that information to you over the weekend so you can do it.
Okay.
Yep. And please know, we're not objective to and biased to any of it. I mean, we've talked about, whatever you guys are comfortable with, we just were trying to provide you the information of like what occurs if we were to say, well, let's just do the hiring and we'll make the motions and all that. I mean, we're not opposed to that, but we are trying to let you know, like, we're kind of unclear how that works too in regards to the next step, since 2 steps later is a grievance. So that's all. It's a little different, like I said, than the other areas, right, with the non-renewals and terminations, because there's due process to those components, and so is the grievance, right? But this kind of adds a different layer to that we've just never done. I 100% would tell you, let's always have the synopsis. I mean, why not?
Any motions?
I make a motion that we keep it just like it is.
I don't think we need I don't think we need a motion to keep it like it is. We'll just
want a motion, if we want to formalize,
yeah.
I would, should we act on Dale's motion? Or is that not a motion, because
It wasn't seconded.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we request, we're presented with, in the board packet,
Synopsis.
with the candidate, but we're not.
That'd be all right, yeah.
Do we have a second?
That would be fine. Second.
All right, any discussion?
I'll ask the administration, so it seems that we're looking at this because it's certainly a pain point that comes up now and then. I feel like the pain point is just because the process, it's a process, it's multi-step, it takes time, and I don't know if having us change our role in it fixes that. Are there other pain points the district sees and how it currently?
Process.
Yeah, well, I guess it more comes in the termination process where the pain point comes in. I think the comment that brought this up was we are being asked to weigh in potentially on the terminations as part of the, the last appeal, but we weren't part of the hiring. I think is where this originated. Are there other pain points that you guys are seeing aside from just the frustration across everybody involved that it can be a long process?
It's a good question. I'd say there's always room to grow. I would say we learn through process, but I think the consistency around the process and the timing, it being lengthy, definitely can cause some frustration. But I think being able to say it's consistent allows us to have peace with that process, knowing even though it's taking a while. But I would say through any process, we find areas of growth as we're moving forward. But I don't know that there's a specific pain point aside from length that comes to mind.
I think you hit it, Kev. It's the length, right? But in regards to the length, it's the various communication that could possibly be going on that can create different narratives, and we're trying to stick to a process, and that process is to remain right to the level of confidentiality in which we're supposed to remain, and to allow the process to be carried out in an effect of impartial and unbiased, right? To the degrees that it should, until it reaches certain people at certain levels. So I would say that's the most difficult part that can sometimes create difficulty in our process, because it leads to more narratives and more I don't know, other conflicts possibly that are even brought up. And so through that, it's like, okay, well, this was our scope, but the scope then becomes greater sometimes, and it's like becomes even bigger, and then that can delay the process of the original, because we're having to look into additional and additional and additional, which then can delay it possibly ever even getting a decision, a recommendation. It can delay a decision, and then it can delay an employee determining whether or not do they want to grieve it to the IHO, to the board, right? And look, I just went through 5 steps that can have a pretty lengthy, I didn't even do the investigation to begin with, right? So all that can have a pretty lengthy time where people are like, we don't understand why it took so long. Well, I just went through a pretty good example of how something could take so long.
I agree with that. We got kind of like a spider web effect where things just kind of.
Are there other positions that you guys are voluntarily informing us of that, to be consistent, we should be considering, and not just coaches, as we have this discussion right now?
Bringing forth other synopsis for positions.
What other positions do you guys bring forward voluntarily we haven't fixated on?
Yeah, we at this point, these are the 2 pockets that are being currently brought forward, but actually that prompted a conversation between Dr. Hibner and I, is would it be good for us just to report out on all of our hires? We have paras, food service, even if it's not necessarily a synopsis, but even list of names, just letting you know new names and faces that will be in our building. Like, we would be happy to report out on a less informal or formal way, whichever you would prefer. But we definitely have, transportation, food service, paraprofessionals, crossing guards, library aides. We have quite a range of support staff members that we don't currently report out on.
The only thing I would ask is, if that were to be a consideration, is doing it in a reporting method of, in the last, we have a board meeting, right, that somebody could at least, maybe it's Kirsten putting together the list of those individuals, just letting you know, hey, we've hired 2 additional crossing guards because 2 people left, or we hired an additional cook. Because there is a lot of turnover that can happen in certain support staff roles, And I would not want to see administrative assistants nor administrators or supervisors putting a lot of time into a complete synopsis.
I agree with you, Chris, on that.
Due to the fact, honestly, you could be like, I thought we just saw that 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and they're gone. We hired somebody else already. And not because we did it, right? They literally thought they wanted the job, found something better, and they're out. So I wouldn't want to see a lot of time and efforts put into the magnitude of all those positions, because we do have some pretty fast turnover in certain positions.
Yeah, I think you guys need to focus on running the place rather than trying to have us micromanage everything. I just fully disagree with us trying to know every hire that you do and so on and so forth. You know, it's just, you've got more important things to do than to report to us about those. That's just my opinion.
I'm trying to think of what makes these coaches unique, and it seems that the majority of their job is direct student interaction, but they're not like the teachers. So I'm comfortable with just.
And that's why I
coaches.
totally understand why head coaching is being discussed too. Head coaching is just it's a large magnitude position, right? I mean, if the head coach oftentimes is responsible for assistant. Now, assistant coaches could be brought forth by others as here's a person interested in that. But head coaches also have the responsibility of their assistant coaches and overseeing them, so that we get the magnitude of the head coach. And right, it's a magnitude, let's be honest, it's a job that's heavily based not only about the sport in itself, but it's a large personification to a community of that position. I mean, it's a large responsibility. I'm the first one to acknowledge that, right? Not only their interaction with our student athletes, but their interaction in regards to how they're promoting and supporting our overall district, right? And everything. So I totally understand why head coaching hires are being discussed from a standpoint on synopsises to approvals and everything else. It's a very important, large position. I won't want to see it go down into assistants and other extracurriculars. It's just that's just one, I would say is right. I also think that's a head coach's job to a certain degree, right? So I just want to keep empowering people, but not over managing them either. But I definitely support why you're looking into this. I get it, I do, and I definitely support either way you go. But I think the synopsis might be the first best step, and then we see from there. Personally.
Any other discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. All right, next is brief school building celebrations.
Hello. Just a couple of highlights. Some of these are across the elementary, and some of them are Little Prairie specific. I think Mark will share a couple that are elementary wide also, so we've kind of divvied those up. But Little Prairie and Prairie View partnered this year with the Culvers in town in a reading incentive. Students who turn in monthly reading calendars get a free Culver's Kids meal. So that has been, I think, a popular incentive amongst families. Reading participation at home has increased with this new incentive. So appreciate that partnership. You have heard us talk at length about Act 20, the requirements that have come down from the state as related to elementary literacy. So one of those requirements, which we had shared with you, was the training of staff. So proud to report to you that 100% of our elementary teachers completed the training that we undertook. It was called the Pathways to Proficient Reading course, but quite rigorous. It took 55 plus hours to complete. I mean, it was nearly like embarking on a college course. So super appreciative of all of their time and efforts and commitment to that. But they are finished, and so we're proud of that. Couple other things. You have heard Amanda and I talk at pretty good length about some special education needs at Little Prairie over the last couple of years. And last year, you approved the addition of a special education teacher position. And so that person was in place all of this year. And so I just wanted to highlight some of the things that she and a few other special education staff members have really done to meet the needs of specifically our most neurodiverse learners. Have really put some nice things in place in terms of environmentally meeting their needs, making some adjustments and accommodations to better suit their needs. Challenging behaviors and overstimulation we've noticed has decreased, engagement has increased. A specific thing they've done to meet those student needs is implemented the use of augmentative and alternative communication devices for 9 students. So students who are primarily nonverbal or have really limited verbal skills now have a method of communication to help them engage with their classrooms and their instruction and the people around them. So, and that's a really exciting opportunity for our kids. Couple of other stats here. We had 458 students, family members, staff, and community volunteers who participated in Cooperation Learn. So you heard Mrs. Homily come and talk to you a little while back about Cooperation Learn. So that happened this spring. Really great turnout there. At Little Prairie, we engage our families a couple of times a year in family breakfasts. Adam had the opportunity to experience this firsthand in February. We did one on Valentine's Day. We Love Our Families family breakfast.
It was a success.
The engagement was great. A little shocking. We had like 525 individuals RSVP. Super wonderful. We did learn it's a little more than we can handle. So worked through some challenges there. Donuts in June went a bit smoother, but appreciate the turnout and families wanting to engage with us in that way. So that was fun. And let's see, I think that was it. I think that was it. Mark, you're up.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay, I was just having this brainstorm of like, I should probably chunk this by like different lenses here. So if I'm a student, the celebrations would be during the course of the year, we've had talent shows, which are wildly popular. We have a lot of really great activities for our students after school, like after school clubs of Lego clubs and coding clubs and STEAM and art. So really showcases a lot of the different talents of our students. Many of them have gotten to participate in the anthology program, where they could potentially be considered an author. Math meets. If I'm a teacher, I would say one of the celebrations is successful rollout of not only just the Act 20 and all the additional reading training that they receive, but we rolled out a social studies curriculum. So some of the resources that we used in the past were quite dated, so we're like in at least the 2000s here. That's great. And then if I'm a community member, I'd be really happy and proud to know about our PTO and all the activities that they offer and all the dollars that they donate directly towards our school. So whether it's roller skating or what else? Oh, bowling, just a lot of things and fun activity nights that they do frequently. And then one thing that I thought, from a teacher standpoint too, as well as administration, we just had this conversation in our administrative meeting that this should not get overlooked, but we are really in sync and we're all rowing in the same direction. So next month you're going to hear about our KPIs, like our levels of accountability, about like the progress that we're making. But ourselves within our building, we're all working towards our professional practice goals or our SLOs related to learner empowerment, related to healthy culture. So we're all rowing together in the same direction, which I think is a huge celebration. And then I'll end with this because Adam said don't talk too long. Here's one that I'm really kind of proud of. Like here's this teacher survey item. So the item for teachers was I feel personally connected to the people in my work area. And 100% of the staff that completed that survey responded of like, yes, 100% endorsed, like agree that they are personally connected to the people who they work with. Not only is that a cool stat, but I looked back and it was 100% for the last 4 years in a row. So it's not just a blip on the radar, but it's like they feel good about the colleagues and who they're working with. So we've always long said that this job is very much about relationships, and I feel really good about like the culture and some of the relationships that are developed within the building. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Share a little bit on the middle school. Really proud of this year. It's crazy to kind of reflect back on everything that happened this year, and some of it feels like 2 years ago. But I think a couple of good accomplishments that our PBIS team kind of added to the middle school this year were monthly assemblies. I think it was really cool. We acknowledge over 250 students for either Trimester Target Trojan students or Students of the Month Award. So really trying to recognize the good thing our students are doing in front of their peers. I think it really did well. We did an internal school competition between the grades, staff included. So we had some games at those assemblies, and it really kind of built some positive culture between staff and students. And I think they had a lot of fun doing that. So appreciate to our PBIS team for adding that element to it. We added a successful bags tournament this year, which was really well attended. For its first year, included all students from all grades, and then parents and even siblings that came in and joined us, and we can hopefully continue that tradition as well. Our participation in our sports for volleyball, boys basketball, and track were well up this year. Track had 2 buses. Mr. Vitala made sure I mentioned that. Our track team was really high in numbers, and that's great to see students participating in that. Our after-school footprint is growing. I think that's one of our goals, is to continue to add clubs, activities that students can do after school, so it's not just bell rings and they're out of there. Our art club is highly popular, D&D club, game club. Our fitness center was open for students after school now, so we could utilize that space as well. So really trying to grow that part of their overall experience. We had a high level of engagement in new elective courses in science and social studies. I really enjoyed being in those courses. We had new dissection class this year, which was awesome. That's not really my cup of tea, but it was really cool to see kids doing things that I didn't even do in high school. They got a lot of animals in there and a lot of dissection. Really cool experience for that. So a huge shout out to Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Johnson had a widely popular science class. Mr. Wick added the decades classes, and students really enjoyed learning that material as well. And then Mrs. Walter added some agricultural classes that we added as well, and really excited to how she developed those courses as well. And then just lastly, great participation in the Southern Lakes Anthology Project, and we did have 5 students who were named finalists and were able to publish their work in that book as well. So some really cool things going on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, I'm going to share a little bit on the high school and mainly with like social life type stuff. So really quickly, within clubs, within the school, obviously we have a lot of phenomenal things going on. We were told to keep it short. So esports team took 3rd at state this year for Super Smash Bros, if you know what that is. Exciting for them. We had the HOSA State Conference this spring. We had 7 places in top 5 for 7 different categories. That included healthcare, photography, medical reading, home health aid, healthy living, community awareness, dental science, so on and so forth. And then the thing that I think I am most excited about, just because I'm directly involved, is we had a group of student athletes. Last year we started the Trojan Athletic Council, and it's really just a group of athletes that are figuring out how to navigate being a student athlete at the same time. So we had over 30 kids go over and help with the elementary field days at the end of the year, high school kids that ran games, and they had a phenomenal experience. It was really cool. regarding athletics. Quick for spring sports. Track had 8 girls attend the state meet this year. Amaya Pluis took 5th in the long jump. Valencia Burgos took 4th in the open 800. And the girls 4x2 relay team took 3rd. Baseball team lost their regional final game against the conference opponent of Turner, who was phenomenal. Golf qualified for the sectional tournament. Boys tennis won conference and had 2 brothers, the Busateri boys, qualify for state. Teddy, who was a freshman, took 3rd. Overall for the school year, we have 5 athletes going on to play college athletics next year. Arguably led by Trey Smith, who will be attending University of South Dakota as a Division I swimmer. And then we had 22 first-team all-conference athletes, 3 team conference champions, and 22 state qualifiers.
Thank you.
A little bit more about the high school, focusing on areas of achievement. We'll start with staff. So this year, 100% of high school staff said that they feel that they have purpose at work. I thought that was pretty insightful. High school is a busy place. There's a lot going on, and we found it very, very soothing that the teachers see that what they are doing, teachers and staff, that what they are doing is impacting the kids that we're here for. So we thought that was pretty insightful. And then they also said that they 100% said they are generally happy at work. So that was good. That was up from 88.24. So just a shout out to the staff and teachers for everything that they do to make this place run, because without them, we wouldn't be able to accomplish anywhere near what we're able to accomplish. So I'm glad that they feel and celebrate that as well. A couple other things, graduation. So we had, of the students that were on our books projected to graduate, we had 100% graduate. So there's always 1 or 2, I'm gonna have to present on the state report card. There's gonna be 1 we found that we didn't know, but everybody that was projected to graduate and went to school here this year graduated. So that was really great. The graduation ceremony, thank you for those that attended. Maybe one of my most favorite graduation ceremonies. If you were there, there was some young man, a young student in a wheelchair that had to take a little bit of time to get up, and everybody was so supportive of him. So it was just a great ceremony. And congratulations to all of our graduates, and good luck on all that you do. We're very proud of that class. It was a very high achieving class. I thought the student speeches really encompassed how it was so diverse but so successful in their own way. We had the student with the 36 perfect score on her ACT and all of the academic and athletic accomplishments that Erin was talking about. So graduation was fun. Senior sunset, Culver's donated ice cream cups, so everybody had a little sundae and ended the year out on the field. Senior class trip down to Six Flags overnight. Man, I can feel my age on those trips. I used to be able to do that about 3 in the morning. I need a cup of coffee, but that was fun. Big shout out to 55 solo ensemble students participated in the jazz band Jazz Fest up in Eau Claire this year. 12 choir students were selected for the all-state choir. So really great accomplishments down in our music department. And then just a huge thank you to our community connections and community partners that support us. If you were at the senior awards, over 85 scholarships to support our local kids in what they are doing next. We had over 50 students in our youth apprenticeship program. So without the local businesses and their support, we too wouldn't be able to accomplish what we do. So I'm sure we missed somebody, but those were just our highlights for tonight. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Stacy. All right, next up, referendum project status update.
Hello, everybody. Okay, well, we're here. It took us a while to get here, but we're here. We started the projects. Can you hear me now? All right, so excited to be here. We've started the projects off. Everything's kind of gone off without a hitch. I'll go through these line by line, kind of tell you where we're at with them. So starting at Prairie View, we have the chiller replacement there. That has been pushed back about 3 weeks. We're still going to be on schedule for startup around July 21st. The reason for that was a couple of the pumps, the delivery dates were pushed back, so we have to hold off for a bit. I'm not complaining. With the process of removing windows, that kind of opens up some of our rooms to outdoor air, so we're still able to dehumidify while the windows are coming out. So I'm not going to complain about that getting pushed back. So we'll still meet deadline on that. Continuing at Prairie View, we have the secure main entrance. So last week they made very short work, surprisingly, of getting the existing service counter out, making some of the wall cuts that they had to make for the new framing to go in. Framing is scheduled to begin this week. That's pretty much it for the main entrance. Roofing. So the roofing contractor at Prairie View, me and Mark were just talking about this earlier. They haven't shown up yet. So I've been in constant contact with PSI, and they have kind of leaned on our contractor that was picked for that job. They've been let known that the deadline is still the deadline, which is August 1st. And they are scheduled to start tomorrow, but it looks like we're going to have a week of rain potentially. So hopefully they're able to catch up. Window replacement at Prairie View. So the south elevation, so everything that faces ES, lower level windows have all come out and been replaced already. So that's moving along nicely, faster than I was anticipating. So that's a good thing. Middle school roofing, so that started the Saturday after school let out, and those guys have worked 7 days a week. They're here about 10 to 12 hours a day. So really, really impressed with that contractor. It's a different contractor at each of the buildings for the roofs. So they're doing a heck of a job there. Site improvement, anybody that's driven by has seen that the asphalt has been pulverized. Concrete demo is scheduled to start tomorrow. And light poles have been removed there. So that'll continue, weather permitted. Other than that, that's pretty much all I got for you now. You guys have any questions?
The chiller, now you say you're replacing the chiller?
Yes.
I thought we were using that for energy efficiency.
Say that again?
I thought we were using that for energy efficiency. What was the reason why we were pulling the chiller?
Well, the reason we're pulling the chiller from Prairie View is because it's 30 years old and it runs off of R22.
I got it. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Jim, can you also just mention phase two?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. For sure. Phase 2. So we've started some programming meetings. We've met with teaching staff, admin, in regards to the overall design of the main office, the design of the new science spaces, and we're about 2 meetings into that. We've kind of got it narrowed down to kind of overall layout of the classroom, where we're going to put particular pieces of furniture and work desks and spaces like our aspects of the room like that. But I think the conversations have gone well. The feedback and the buy-in has been great. And the suggestions that people are bringing up are, you can tell they're very well thought out, and I'm glad that they're part of that process. Yeah. Anything else? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Enhancement supplemental stipend compensation request, that's in executive session.
Yep.
Administration and supervisory contracts.
Executive.
Discussion and action if appropriate of a teacher retirement benefit request. Executive.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Discussion and appointment of IHO. That's executive as well.
Correct.
Okay. All right, we will go on to reports. District Administrator report.
I just have 2 quick ones. Stacy already said it, so I just want to ditto her comments about the 2024-25 graduates and congratulate them and wish them all the best in their future endeavors. I know they're going to be very successful. And just to remember, don't let a little adversity get you down. Just work through it, because you'll be just fine. They got a lot of skills and a lot of proper attitude. So I wish them all the very best. And then the second thing is just letting all of you know, in July, for the 7th, now that it's been set, we will be bringing forth an update on the strategic priorities from this past school year. We're talking about some KPIs and off the original goals that were established last fall, how what's the data look like for us to share with all of you. And then we won't establish new goals at that meeting, but we'll bring forth new goals again in the fall based upon that data and some other new areas that we think should be of emphasis for our district.
Thank you. Business manager report.
Yes, I will report on open enrollment. On page 61 in your packet, there is a summary of the 2024-25 open enrollment. The first chart is our open enrollment students into the district. So these are students who residence district is outside of East Troy, but they attend classes here in East Troy. We had 114 students open enrolled in. And the total payment the district receives from those other resident districts is $982,797. For each student who is open enrolled in and receives regular education, the reimbursement amount is $8,962 per student. For a student receiving special education services, the reimbursement is $13,814. I would like to point out those amounts can be prorated. For 4K students, they are 0.6 FTEs for open enrollments in our pupil counts. Likewise, students come into the district and withdraw at different times through the year. So therefore, the rates can be prorated. Therefore, if you do the math, like 6 students times the reimbursement of about $8,900, it may not come out exactly. That's because students enroll and withdraw at different times, so rates are prorated. For open enrollment out, this would be for students who do reside within the bounds of the East Troy Community School District and they attend classes in other districts. We had 328 students open enrolled out for the 24-25 school year, and our district has to pay those reimbursements to those other resident or non-resident districts. And the amount the district pays for open enrollment out is $2,847,740. However, these students are counted originally in our pupil count because they are residents, so we receive the state aid, but then we have to pay a large portion of that to the other districts where their students attend. We also send out surveys each year to our families to gain perspective on what qualities would families make them either enroll in or out of the district, and try to make sure that we can meet the needs of as many families as possible.
So what are you finding? Why? It'd be great if we have more in than out, but why are so many students enrolling out of the school district?
There are various reasons. A lot of times it's where parents work or their daycare or grandparents are nearby. So the logistics of after school care, before school care work for those families. There's also like families interested in certain programs, which certain districts will have some unique programs. That can be another reason. And sometimes it's just family preference as well. Open enrollment period is from February to April 30th, and then the district has to approve those applications. However, if a family misses that open enrollment application period, there's always alternative open enrollment applications, which can be completed anytime after July 1st through the end of the school year. So there are options for families to open enroll in at any time. Did you have any more questions, Dale?
Well, I'm just, almost $2 million out of the bucket is a lot of money, so, I don't know, do we look for a solution to that? Is there a solution to this? And if there is a solution, what is that solution? I mean, can it be cut in half? I mean, what can be done?
We have discussed options such as all-day 4K, which may help with childcare. We can also check with the YMCA, see if we can provide that wraparound care for our younger students. I know Mark and Lindsay also have good relationships with the area daycares, so I feel like we do try to look
I
at
mean,
the
if it's
options.
a daycare situation and you're losing $2 million, if you stuck $1 million into just, let's say, the elementary school made it a daycare, you'd make $1 million by keeping a lot of people there. I mean, something like that, you know? If it's daycare, you know, resolve it, move forward. I'm sure there's not an easy solution, but, you know.
Yeah, Gail, I don't blame you for asking. I mean, we look at that bottom line number and we see the same thing. Not only do we see the number, we like to have current residents stay in East Troy in the school district, right? The hard part is, I mean, the administration team will attest to this. I've said this. I would like to see a part. I mean, I'm the first one to acknowledge. I'd like to see a little bit of my legacy be flipping that number, right? Instead of that number just continually altering and changing. I think the challenge is us always trying to determine what will flip that number, because it means something different to a lot of different families. As Amy said, right? Making somebody flip when work is a convenience to them or their location, it's going to take something very large and big for that to affect the family, right? Because there's a convenience component already occurring for that. The other thing is that you're talking about a lot of times families are within those numbers. So you're not just talking about when people look at it from this year's number, you're talking about it, you have to look at it over a period of time, because it might be the third or fourth child, right? So they already have 3 children. Let's say if you're looking at kindergarten number, right? And the kindergarten number is larger than we like, let's say, open enrollment out. Well, out of those kids, how many of those are families that already have kids open enrollment out? So they're not gonna take their 4th child when 3 of them are already going to a school district, right, for various reasons. So I think those are all things that have to be looked at. We look at it from a standpoint of grade levels, like are we on a consistent trend, a certain grade level, a certain building, a certain, right? And not trying to isolate a grade or a building, but saying, what is there a programming, right, component that's making one choose not to go because of those things. All those things we have talked about, learning centers, right, at almost a birth level, saying with a full day 4K, as Amy said. All of those things, here's the component of it. We're trying to ask individuals if that would make a difference, right? But we need to get more than a few people responding back to that, because as you said, you're taking the number and reversing it fully, and that's the only way we can invest in it, would be to know if we're going to actually have the return on it. Because if we provide that, but we only have a few people that end up taking advantage of that are open out, our expenses will increase greater than our revenue coming in. So it's really about knowing, like, how many people, and then will they hold true to what they told us in regards to it. The other factor there is a little bit, when I came 18 years ago, I believe early on in my career, I had mentioned the possibility of us looking into a learning center in daycare center. I call them learning centers.
Okay.
And I will say, the balancing act there was for us not also infuriating our current learning centers and daycare centers. Like, we weren't trying to take their business away. We were just trying to help people have options for maybe what they could make work in their current schedules. That's a balancing act a little bit, right? In regards to that. And there's different requirements, and Adam knows really well. There's a lot of different requirements if we start getting into, I'm not talking about full day 4K, I'm talking about birth before. Those are a lot of different requirements with a lot of different ratios, which could add a lot of different staffing. And if we don't know truly the revenue we're gonna get, it could be a bigger expenditure. So there's a lot, we are looking into those things, whether or not those things will come to fruition, and space. You need space.
Right.
to do that, and space that's properly fitted for what you're designing it to.
Well, that's what I mean, you know, if you could, even if you invest $500,000 and you've got, I mean, this is, over 10 years, this is $20 million. It's a lot of money. But these are the things that, rather than report to us whether you hire a janitor or not, these are the things that you guys have to brainstorm and try to resolve to help, you know what I mean? Like this is we could help a little bit, but this is something that you guys know more than we do about.
I appreciate that. I'm not 100% certain on that. I appreciate you acknowledging it, but because the reason is we are brainstorming. We've been brainstorming a lot, and not just because the number is what we're there. We've been sharing that number every year.
I know you have.
We've been very transparent
Right.
with that number. I mean, that's in the annual booklet.
Yes.
We're not hiding it.
No, I know you're not
I
hiding
will
it.
say, I think a thing that, again, fully, you know, I'm not saying we see this in the few responses back when we reach out to people. I think a thing hopefully that also will build momentum are a couple things, right? They're seeing East Troy invest, right? I think that could hold value and weight. Investing in facilities, investing in it properly, meaning like we're not asking for $100 million.
Right.
In 19.4, and we can explain why that 19.4 was a given number, not 50, right? So, and how that's impacting the tax base and limited. We also can show from a standpoint of what we've done from programming, because we have a lot of programming, right?
I know you have.
So we've done that, but I also will tell you, we're only 2 years into the 3-year operation, right? So we're able to look at people and say, we had stability, now we gotta keep the stability of supporting staff and programming. But before then, that absolutely had to be impacted too. The lack of stability, and people had to be looking at, where is stability when I'm choosing for a family, right? I mean, we lost 83 staff members. So how many
Yeah, I remember
families
that.
did we lose because of that stability,
Yeah.
right? So I'm hoping all those things over time. The problem is too, I think people expect like flip. You're only 2 years into an operational, we just had the 19.4 capital, right? So there's certain things where we're like, you're not gonna flip a number just because, right?
No, I'm not.
Some people are
I
willing to
agree. You
see-
can't flip it. I agree with
But
100%.
we
You
need-
can
but we
you
do
can
need to
reverse the
alter it.
trend.
It's gotta be trend.
Yeah, it's got to be
I
trend, and
agree.
I don't know whether that's marketing, pointing out your things and getting the word out there that this district is better than the others, or whatever that is. You know, maybe that is part of the solution. I don't have the solution in my hands right now, but there is some solution out there that will help change the number in the direction that this is going.
It's probably a combination of things, I think. One of the things I keep hearing when they come back with the surveys is families, they may live in East Troy, but they work somewhere else, and that is one of the major drivers. One of the things we can do in the community is encourage, we all know it's a great place to live here. I know that there are multiple administrators and lots of teachers and staff that are involved in the different boards around the community for, First Fridays and all the things that happen around here. But, it's a more long-term view, but trying to make East Troy not only a great place to live, but a positive and encouraging place to have businesses. Because if the people aren't leaving the community to work, it might be a small number, but the more good jobs we have here in the community, and the school board doesn't have any say over that, but we do have, we can talk to town, village, municipality type entities to see what maybe we can do about making this a more attractive place for businesses to come. There's been some growth over the past few years of, your Culver's, your Starbucks, Quick Trip. I think those in other communities, you see those as sort of the seeds of growth for bigger things to come. So hopefully those trends will continue, and we can also work on things within our community to try to drive the business growth, because we know it's a great place to live, and people come here from all around to all the events that are held here. But I think if there are more businesses, more employment, then people don't leave the community to work, and then maybe they start coming here from other communities and bring their kids in. You know, obviously long-term view, but I
So,
can
you
see that
know,
as a pattern as
and
well.
I think the long-term view is needed. Definitely for sure, you need to look into the future. If you don't have a long-term view, you don't have the direction. But I think that maybe more of a partnership between the district, the town of East Troy, the village of East Troy, maybe Spring Prairie, to kind of get together and put a vision together of what we need to do to, you know, bring these students back to us, or whatever it takes to start to turn the direction of the number. Maybe that's more than one. Maybe there's not just one answer, but several answers. Maybe there's transportation as part of the answer. Maybe place to live is part of the answer. Maybe business is part of the answer. Maybe it is our curriculum that's part of the answer. Maybe it's marketing that's part of the answer. But it's all of those maybe coordinated together that kind of turns this number around and starts to bring people back.
I don't dispute that it's probably a combination of combination. I think honestly, a key point that we've been trying to do is stabilize the number. Stabilize the number, because open enrollment trends anywhere will tell you once a child's open enrolled out, they usually remain out, right? No matter what the reason, you're very rarely getting them back because they've been established, right? And they're established now in that district, and so they're not coming back over usually most things. They usually are out,
right?
But that's what we're saying. Our goal has been stabilize the out number. So if it's 250 1 year, 350 1 year, can we keep it at 350? I know that sounds ridiculous, but no, keep it there, right? Like, and then ultimately not having the younger grades have any open enrollment out, really, right? Or much reduced from previous years, because then that will continue throughout too, right? So you really can't look at taking a 350 number and saying, let's reverse it down to 275 or 225. Really, it's about, can we stabilize it? Can we stabilize it, and then stabilize on the younger grade end, and slowly that will compound through, right? And then your number ultimately through the years does start to decrease too, right? Because, and it's not my perception, I'm saying it is a known fact. Most kids, once they're out in any district, stay out. They stay in that district. And
So,
you can imagine all the reasons why. I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, for example,
It'd be nice to stay.
if you remember Eagle, the school district, you know, they didn't pass a referendum and they wanted to go out of business, and the governor said, no, you're not gonna go out of business. But just recently, they approved a 70-acre parcel to start bringing in new homes. Well, you think how that's gonna impact that school? It's gonna be huge. You know, they're gonna be huge on that. So my question has been since the beginning, what are we offering families for living to come to East Troy? We need families to come to East Troy to bring their kids here to go to school. Agreed? You know, I mean, that's part of what's going on here, you know?
Now
It's
you're
part
part
of,
residential,
yeah.
rather than open enrollment, you know.
Yes, I agree, but there's,
But I don't
it all works into
Absolutely. It's
everything
growth.
that's going on here, you know?
I would say it's a triangulation of growth. It's a triangulation.
Yeah.
Different precedents.
Yes. Yeah, I hear. Thank you, Dale. And I just like to say, I know we do when we have a chance to go to like a chamber meeting, or Jake and I will sit in on some of the village meetings as well. We always try to take those opportunities.
I know that
to-
I went to a meeting with Chris once, and we went to East Troy. I think it was the East Troy Village meeting. You or me, and there was a guy from Walworth County Growth. I think I even got his card. Yeah, you know. So yeah. So I mean, those type of things are good. I mean, they get together and start to see where we're going with that. You know,
It's residential growth, it's commercial growth. And those aren't just about numbers, those are about tax base.
yeah, absolutely.
Tax
Yeah.
base.
You know,
When people are concerned about where the tax base goes, you have to increase the equalized value of the tax base, not have an impact.
I mean, the village of East Troy has an 80-acre parcel sitting on 120 that's been vacant for a long time. And we still have the business park that's kind of half empty. We do have Heifer Electric building that huge automation building, and they're a huge presence in the community. But, you know,
I think another thing that can't be lost is, you know, like, like, I'll use it, back in 2024, we've done family satisfaction surveys, right? We usually do them like almost every other year. We didn't do one this year, we'll do it next year. We've stayed on the 2-year cycle, but we try to. I mean, we don't wanna overdo people with surveys when we're also surveying them on operational questions, capital questions. But I will say, in 2024, I think we need to remember, I mean, don't quote me, but I mean, the percentages were extremely high and favorable of the people who are in our district.
Right.
That are receiving the services and the programming, the wonderful teaching and all that.
well, maybe
right?
that's, we need to
They-
get that word out through marketing or something, you know?
I know, I agree, and I mean, we have, I mean, shared certain things on that, but I agree. Now, does it sway somebody who's already out? I don't know on that. It doesn't seem to be
But
swaying
let's say,
them back.
for example, you
but
know.
on the other end, but I will say, I mean, I think that was 93%. I wanna put that out there.
Yeah, I believe it's high. I think you guys are doing a great job.
93% of people who are strongly in favor of the, if you wanna say the job that's being done, right?
I think
Which
the district is doing a great
I mean, Darren
job.
Severs, I think, presented
you know.
that from School Perceptions and said, you don't see this in other districts.
I mean, I know for a fact that the apprenticeship program that Stacy runs at the high school is much more advanced than what McQuantico is doing, and so McQuantico's trying to catch up. But people don't know that we have these programs here. You know, just for example, you know, you got a person, just a high school student that's on a CNC machining. That's very impressive, you know? And that would not be bad to have that, like, for example, on TikTok. Maybe you get some money, you know. I'm just thinking out of the box here to kind of promote the school district. I mean, I've always said there's things here that no other school district has, and those things should be put out there to know. Everybody should know about that. I'm just saying.
You bet. No, I think it's a great conversation. I mean, I just don't want anybody to think that we haven't had a conversation.
I know.
We do it outside of our room. I mean,
Yeah.
we go to people and we're like, so let's talk from a larger scale perspective. You know, we talk to other districts about it, some in the same position we are, others who are the flip, reverse, right? And we try to figure out, like, so what are you doing? What allegedly, right?
I feel this
It is
group
no
needs.
doubt, if we could flip that number,
I feel that this group, this is part of what we should be focused on. You know, the day-to-day stuff you guys run, but we need to be focused on what the future holds.
Can we please get, I don't know, maybe a 10-year look back, like the same data by grade, just so we can look at cohorts and trends over time? I'm like, I don't know what I missed before I was able to join, so maybe this point was already brought up, but what jumps out to me looking at literally one year of data, which is not enough to draw any conclusions, certainly, but there's 3 students in at the high school levels and 11 out. And so, like, to me, that's, I mean, the middle school numbers are even lower than the high school, which frankly surprised me a little bit. Which is with as much as people are concerned about the middle school. So, so I would just like to look at more historical data.
Sure, for open enrollment in and out
Yes.
through like 10 years, you said?
Yeah, I think 10 years is good.
Yes, I can put that together for the
Thank
next
you.
board meeting.
Amy, does the open enrollment out, is that just enrollment out to other brick and mortar schools, or does that include enrollment out to like fully online?
If there's a public school who has an online program, it would include those students as well. It's all public schools in the state of Wisconsin.
It does not include students who are enrolled in RBA. Those remain our students.
Yes.
And if they're choosing to homeschool.
Homeschool is separate.
Not
Any other questions?
I was going to make one more comment.
Sure.
I think that everything that Holly is doing in the ag department, I think that guy is tremendous. He should be everything that he does, from plowing the fields out there, planting the corn, the bees, the vegetables. the flowers, whatever he's doing here, and you just don't see the auction and all that stuff. You just don't see that anywhere else, you know. And I think that builds a lot of character, and I think everybody should know about that. That everybody, this whole district of Southeast Wisconsin should know about that. I'm just saying. That's all.
Okay, and then if you continue through your board packet on page 62, there's more with open enrollment and the open enrollment applications that we received in and as well as out. For the applications, after the April 30th deadline for open enrollment applications, the districts approve the applications. Some are denied. For example, our district, we do not have space for students with special education services, just to our staffing and the amount of needs we have already. So applications can be denied for certain reasons. And then once the applications are approved, families receive a letter, and then the families can decide whether they would like to attend a district they applied to. And then once a district is in attendance on the third Friday, they are officially considered open enrolled. And that's where, you know, the numbers are finalized and the reimbursements are calculated. Are there any questions on the applications for 2025-26?
This is essentially what I'm curious to see if we're able to pull it. So it's like the new students, right, that are applying each year, because this page 61 is cumulative, right? That's everybody versus like year over year who's newly asking to come in or out. If we can pull that.
Just the applications. I should be able to do that. I can pull definitely the numbers. Once a person open enrolls and they're fill out the application and approved once, they can continue on through the next years. So we can see the trend as the years go by.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Director of Teaching and Continuous Improvement of Student Learning report.
So I have the Student Learning Subcommittee minutes from May 19th. So this work really stems from a question that Dale asked at a previous board meeting about middle school improvement and action planning. So at the last Student Learning Subcommittee meeting, myself, Adam Trindle, Brian Squares, and Amy Foss-Panchik and Amanda Jones presented information really from 2019-2020 forward of what we've seen in data at the middle school, what's been done, the context of budget implications, COVID, staffing turnover, curriculum changes, school-wide focus areas. As you can tell, it's a lot of information. So we accumulated that report, presented it at the Student Learning Subcommittee meeting, and then got some really great feedback on, you know, additional pieces of information that would be helpful, how best to present that large amount of information. And so from that, we'll be presenting, starting at our July board meeting on the 7th, 3 separate presentations, kind of building upon each other to try and make it a little bit more digestible. So starting in July, we'll present the context. So really looking at the structural changes and things that have happened that have impacted the middle school, including COVID. That will then be followed in August by a presentation around school culture. So looking especially at student discipline, attendance, and various other measures of culture. And then finally, the last August meeting, we'll do another presentation specifically on academics. So what has the data shown us? What have we done from that data? And then kind of where are we going next? So hopefully trying to really present for obviously the board, but also the community, just like a really comprehensive picture of what has been happening at the middle school to work for improvement, and what have we seen work, and what are we continuing to work on. So that'll start next month.
That's a good job, thank you. I think the community knows this, and I think that helps.
Thank you. Director of People Services report.
Yep, so I have, starting on page 64 in your packet, I kind of referenced last month that I wanted to just give an overview of our special education paraprofessional evaluation system that we put into place this year. We have a large number of paraprofessionals that, you know, have never had a formal evaluation system. So we kind of started with this subgroup of support staff
in this rollout because they have such important jobs in working directly with our kids. And we have heard from them that they want to have the skills necessary. We get a lot of paras who come from other careers and have never worked in a school before. And so it's important to us to know how we can support them best. So to do that, within Frontline, which is what we use for our certified staff, they do have a support staff platform option, which is what we adopted because then it could all be comprehensive and in one system. So on page 64, it just gives you the overview of the various steps. So we did not do the evaluation system as outlined on page 64 to fidelity this year because there were 42 of them. And then myself and Matt Burt, who was our special ed coordinator, divided those folks up. So each took kind of half and half, because what we really wanted to focus on this first year was the goal setting piece. And how that looked was we had beginning of the year, so on page 67 of your packet, I didn't include all of the various evaluation forms, so this one that I included really is the self-assessment. So they completed a self-assessment using the 6 different standards as outlined in the evaluation cycle. So what they did is use that self-assessment to identify a goal that they wanted to focus on. And so they one-on-one met with either myself or the coordinator, which was Matt at the time, and we talked about it. And a lot of the time they didn't know where to go with that information. So we really helped facilitate those conversations with them to dive a little bit deeper, because a lot of them being new, they don't know what they didn't know. Okay, if I've identified 5 things, where do I focus? So we kind of processed through some of that. So really focused on the goal setting. And I will tell you, the conversations, I'll just speak personally, the conversations that I was able to have with people this year was amazing. So if anything came out of that, I think just the time spent in getting to know people. I can see people in the hallway, I can do various professional development, and that's completely different. I mean, I had tears, I had happy things, I had celebrations, I had challenges, and I really appreciated that time spent. It was very time consuming because each initial goal setting meeting was 45 minutes. So you figure that time, and then mid-year meetings were a half hour, end of year meetings were a half hour. So it was a very time consuming process, but very, very, very valuable, I would argue. So they set the goal, we worked on that together, and then we helped them with the navigation of the platform, because we didn't want the technology to be a barrier to that, so we assisted where we could. And then what we did was we met with them mid-year. How did that go? How is it going? What barriers have you experienced? Do we need to make any changes in your goal? Some of them did need to, simply because they identified goals that maybe they had a change in schedule due to trimester changes, for instance, and students they had set goals with or for maybe then changed, and we needed to change that. I can give you the top 3 themes that we saw between all of the paras in terms of goals. First one was around communication. There's never enough time in the day to communicate effectively, so a lot of the communication was centered around structuring times to meet with special ed teachers and or regular ed teachers in order to best support kids. Other, I would say, pillar of that, an add-on, would be understanding accommodations, modifications, what does the IEP say? Do they have access to supplementary aids and services within that IEP? Do they know what supports kids are supposed to be getting? Because that's what their job is. So I was able to learn some of the barriers that they were facing, just in terms of accessing the information that was necessary to support kids, what I need to do better to ensure that those things are happening for our support staff. You know, and some of them being new, never worked in schools, are like, what is the difference between an accommodation and a modification? Because there is differences, right? So helping them get through some of that. And then also a common theme was like behavior and student engagement and how to support that better. So some of it focused around professional development for themselves in terms of just understanding ways that they can best support in the classroom as well. So those were very valuable. I did include just some anecdotal feedback for you in your packet as well. Just in general, I think some of the positive pieces were, you know, being able to kind of own what those goals were. The evaluation process being beneficial, especially with some of our newer employees, we heard as a really positive, appreciating the feedback that came throughout that, having kind of a safe space is what I heard often in my meetings, of just having the ability to have a conversation about the challenges that they were encountering day to day. And then some things to consider for the future, right? So yeah, some of the challenges around the schedule changes, and you know, maybe we reconsider whole year goals, and maybe we make them trimester goals and we like split that up. You know, what is the feedback that we're receiving from whom, right? So as part of this process, at the end of the year, we solicited feedback from regular ed and special ed teachers and administration. But we did not have them like upload any artifacts or put things into like their documentation logs. Those things will come as we move through various years. And then also we did not do formal observations, like direct in classroom observations. Those pieces will be added this year. So then, you know, we'll kind of put them on a cycle, so there won't be 42 of them. They'll all do the goal setting. That will remain because I think that's super important. But those that are on like the formal evaluation cycle will be a third, so we can cycle them through every 3 years. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that process. I think that it was really beneficial, I hope. You know, some people felt it was more beneficial than others. I think teachers would say that too, right, as they move through their own evaluation cycle. So we're hoping to improve that. We take their feedback very seriously, and things that we can change and make better, we will continue to do. Do you have questions about the evaluation cycle at all before I move on? Okay. And then the second piece of my report is just around, for your knowledge, the additional support considerations worksheet that we implemented this year. So in an effort to do a couple of things, right? Fiscal responsibility, allocation of resources, ensuring that students have the support that they actually need, so that they're not also over-supported, because if you over-support students, that's actually less restrictive than allowing them some independence. So what we want to do is, you know, we see a lot of support. Little Prairie has a lot more support in terms of paraprofessionals than other buildings, rightfully so, right? They're little, developmentally more needs. But that as students do get older, we hope to scaffold back those supports. Some students will continue to need, you know, direct one-on-one support just due to disability-related needs, and that's fine. But really wanted to kind of wrap my head around what those needs were, and also provide common language in student IEPs. Because if you read IEPs from building to building, case manager to case manager, the way that para support is written is inconsistent in language and also interpretation from case manager to case manager. And that can be very problematic when it comes time to understanding, what does the student actually need for support? So really trying to like hone in on the language and also the need and allocation of that. So you saw in your packet, we have a couple of different levels. So our basic classroom support, what needs are being met, specific times of day they might be needed, who's responsible for that, which could be the classroom teacher in the classroom support setting. And then that IEP wording, again, consistency. And then if there's more support needed than just that level, what's the adult support? So again, aligning that need with specially designed instruction, disability related needs in their IEPs. Is that provided by special ed paras or teachers, kind of outlining who that is? And then again, what is that specific IEP wording to identify specific skills or areas of need instead of just like para, you know, in gen ed setting. Well, what does that mean, right? Like, do they really need that all the time, or do they really need it during math instruction, right? And then if they need additional support, then they get into that one-on-one direct support. And there's a little bit more information that I wanted from that, because if we have paras working one-on-one with students, there's additional professional development and training that I want to make sure that those paras have, right? Whether that's medical, so we have some students who might need, you know, feeding, toileting, is there lifting pieces, physical interventions to ensure safety, is there, what kind of academic support is needed. So what is really highly individualized in that time of day, who's responsible, how often, and what is that wording in that IEP saying? So if they have a student on their caseload this year who had any type of need for additional adult support, they had to fill out a support consideration worksheet and turn that in. I think there's some room for growth. It was the first year. There's some room for growth in the completion of some of those. And I would say how thorough some of that would be, but I do think it was a good start. So I appreciate them filling that out, and that then helps me in working with principals and them as case managers and saying, here's what you're saying we need, here's what their IEP says. What do I now tell this case manager, and are we over allocating, under allocating, etc. And then I also know, you know, where with their goal setting and this worksheet, I get a better idea, right, of like, what do I need to do to support these people better in their jobs. So questions on that? It's kind of a brief overview, but.
How do you keep people up to the latest technology? I mean, technology is changing all the time. Let's say, for example, your technical people that teach technical classes, how do they stay up to speed?
In this position specifically?
Well, in all the positions have.
Yeah, so I can speak for instance. So Lindsay had mentioned some students, additional students, right? So we have a number of kids who use AAC devices, let's say. So augmentative devices to communicate. So our speech and language pathologists train our paraprofessionals around how to use those AAC devices. Because you're right, we can't just say, use this effectively and expect kids to know and adults to know. So there is language and time outlined in IEPs for additional adult training around that. But then also, to your point, through our goal setting process, we did find, personally I found that like a lot of our paras don't have access to some things that did inhibit some of their access to helping kids. Something as simple as access to Google Classrooms so that they know what assessments are coming up, how they can help better prepare students in understanding and assessment practices or content areas, right? So we will continue to help like navigate some of that. I don't think it's an expectation of our support staff to be the experts in those areas, but they do need the tools and resources to support kids, and then lean on those classroom teachers and special ed teachers if they have additional questions. So one, we want to make sure that they're advocating for what they need, they have the resources in order to do that. But yes, to your point, they do need to have some things that they need to be able to access.
Technology is changing all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
yeah.
Especially in a technical classes that you're teaching, you know.
For sure.
Speed of lightning, actually. So those are important that the student or the teachers, if they are to teach that subject, that they understand the particulars of it.
Yeah, you're right. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that and gauge that through these conversations of goal setting and also what do students need individually. Okay.
Thank you, Amanda. Director of Human Resources, nothing. And I do not have any report. We'll move on to policy review and development. First reading of Neola policies, the 2000s programming.
First reading, so please offer suggestions or just email us as we continue to look at these 2000s. We'll bring back in July for a second reading with hopefully a final reading in August. And hopefully continue to get to the 3000s, 4000s, 5000s throughout this summer. So by the time fall comes, we're at least halfway through the Neola policies. I was just stating today to the administrative team that it's the goal to, by the calendar year, to be implementing all the Neola policies. So there's quite a bit that still have to be done, but that's kind of the goal by next January for us to do a full implementation. The 2000s are all on like programming, obviously going from, as you can see, like the mission of the district, right? And you can see how we have tried to personalize these, right? They obviously provide the templates, provide the language. Their attorneys have all looked at it, which Shana Lewis is a part of the Neola attorneys, which is nice too, knowing that she's very well versed in all the different policies already. But then you can see that we're not just bringing forth them to adopt their language. As you can see, like, we have our mission statement, our strategic priorities right within the first one. We're not adopting some new mission statement or some new strategic priorities. Or if you look at the second one, the 2110, the statement of philosophy, you know, obviously that is our current statement of philosophy. That's literally from our board policy now. And then if you go down to subsection 2 of that philosophy, that's within our policy 2, which is on the personalized learning policy. So that's our current personalized learning policy that's now put into the statement of philosophy, which brings in our 6 C's. And you can do that throughout each and every one of them, right? That you look at 2120. Now, we don't have a policy that talks about school improvement restructuring. That would be a Neola policy that they're saying we recommend that you have a policy on school improvement and restructures that occur. And I think a big thing, right, it shows, right, that what we're going to use in regards to what determines if a school is in need of improvement. And if a school is being identified as a school in need of improvement, then obviously look at the final sentences. It says, upon viewing the district's and schools' initial plan and its later revisions, the board and district administrator shall fully support, to the extent that resources allow, the school's educational improvement programming, right? So meaning, if it's being identified and actions are being identified for resources to help it achieve, then the policy is also stating provide the necessary resources to do so. So we can see improvement, right? So, I mean, I think all those policies are well written and good, and then the key is living up to them, right? That, I mean, it does give the language if able, but I think that's always the key. So all of these have been looked at once by, I mean, numerous times, but I will say we've gone through them as like a first draft ourselves. When I say we, numerous eyes. I'm not talking myself or just Taylor and Amy from the programming standpoint. Amanda Jones has been highly involved in the pupil service lens, to Kirsten, and rightly so, more and more people will be as we continue to get more and more involved in different policies. So I was hoping to be honestly along more in all of these policies. Obviously a little bit of a setback, which put us back on them, but hopefully we can continue to make up some ground in time. I don't know how else to say that, due to the fact we're living between 2 policies right now, which is really difficult. We're not obviously utilizing the Neolas that are even adopted, but when we're talking, I'll be blunt, when we're talking to like Shana, it gets complicated. We're still doing East Troy's policies, but we'll be referencing sometimes Neolas, right? It'd be nice to convert as quick as possible, no doubt about it. So if you have any suggestions, I know that there's a lot there. If you have any suggestions, just email me the language of the policy, and I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. And if it requires attorney feedback, I'll get that from Sheena on that.
Then we have first reading of policy 546, expectation of continuation.
So this one is page 175 in your packet, so the last page. You will see I pretty much crossed out everything that was in place and have a suggestion moving forward. Essentially, we had a policy that spoke to having an expectation of continuation of employment. To meet the requirements under Wisconsin unemployment law, they require that we actually issue a reasonable assurance of a continued employment letter. So essentially each year, school districts would need to provide, or school districts are to provide 9 and 10th month or academic term employees with this letter of reassurance for continued employment into the next academic year. So providing such allows us to be in compliance with that statute, which provides the school district employee who performs services in an educational institute is ineligible for unemployment benefits during the period between the 2 academic years. The only way that they do not qualify is by having that letter of reassurance that they're going to be able to come back into the next academic year. Teachers and administrators are not part of this. Their contract is essentially their letter of reassurance. This is speaking specifically to academic, like paraprofessionals, food service, transportation, so some of those support staff positions that we have in that academic period. So essentially what I'm looking for is, or in a first reading, is just instead of having a blanket policy that does not align with what is recommended, that we just change so that we are issuing this letter annually to ensure that unemployment benefits are not being obtained by people in between the academic years. We have a letter template already, so there's nothing that in terms of administration other than creating the letter, merging it, and getting it out. Do you have any questions for me at all? Okay, thank you.
And we have the second reading of policy 551, leaves.
So this one is the stapled packet that I put on your table today. It is the second reading, so everything is the same as last time with the exception of page 3. So if you turn to page 3, let's see here, this would be Roman numeral 8, vacation for full year and full-time support staff. We have an update that we would like to bring forward as part of this policy for D. So right now, employees are not able to carry over any vacation time. It is use it or lose it. There's no payout, there's no rollover, there's nothing. What we would like to see, as we are finding we have employees who are losing this benefit, we would like to allow them 5 days to roll over into the next, their vacation anniversary period. So that is different than last time. We didn't have anything specific to that, but we wanted to also ask that that be added, just seeing our employees who are losing days, and we don't want them to lose a benefit that they have here at the district.
Can I just
So
add,
we're
it,
just restricting it to just 5 days?
For the rollover,
Yeah.
just 5 days.
and it was put in place based on feedback we received from employees. So
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
listen.
5 days not bad, you know, you don't want 30 days or 40 days or something like that, yeah.
Whoops. We also don't want inconsistent practices where, oh, I'll go to my supervisor and request more. Like, it just allows us to be consistent and fair across all employee groups by just saying 5 days, that's what we're going to allow.
Okay.
While also recognizing, I'm sure we said at the last board meeting, this is the second meeting, conflicts and suggestion happen, such as, you know, if you're half day, full day, or having, or providing a per period, right, that we recognize you can't necessarily provide a per period. That conflicts with the issue we're having ourselves, finding substance, essentially, with people that have things. I think everybody would be very willing to understand that.
Thank you. Communication and announcements, we've got none here. Any future items for the board?
I would like to revisit our conversation that we had about the future, and Chris with his, I think he's got the framework for a lot of things in his mind, the trifecta. So I'd like to continue this conversation about where the district is going, to be honest with you. He's got a lot of valuable information, he's got a lot of knowledge, so. Yeah.
10-11, which was basically put together, and I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but at that point in time, we were looking at where the district was going back in 10-11, we put together a visionary subcommittee.
I think that's a start to find out where we need to go. I think in your mind, when we talked about the trifecta, you know, the community, the enrollment in and out, and the other things that are going on here, I think that needs some kind of a solution. Whether we ever get a full solution, I'm not sure, but we need some kind of a solution to that, because we're simply bleeding out too much money. Simple as that.
So would this be you said there was a subcommittee, would this be a separate from the our regular board meetings discussion, or would this be included? Are you thinking?
I'm thinking, I like the subcommittee idea. I mean, I would volunteer to be in that subcommittee, no problem. But I think we need to sit down and start to talk about it. If we don't talk about it, we don't ever find out the solution. Starts with a conversation.
I think the first thing would be right before discussing the process to be used towards talking about, we want to be time devoted towards determining the vision for the district in the future, right? And so the board would be, I think, spending time on that process rather than solutions, because the process is the key discussion point, right? Like, how do you want that to go?
How to proceed, how to
form
you
that
know,
vision,
get
right.
how to the structure for our ideas to develop the solutions.
Like in 2000, I think it is 2011 when we did our, that was the, at that time, I think it was the 21st century that hockey in 2010. And the board identified they wanted a structure presented, they chose a structure, and then from there we brought in a gentleman from CC6 to facilitate that 21st century hockey. Right? And that person facilitated over a course of 4 or 5 months. He was great. And we got various representation, right, from everybody in the community that we felt was important to talk about. And that's kind of how we came up with the vision statements that we had, right, in the action plans. And it's kind of what has pursued in the course of the last 14 years where we take. So, for 14 years, I think, you know, we can go through that list and show people clearly how we stayed.
I think the added on this, from my mind, when I'm thinking about this, is community, town of East Troy, village of East Troy, Spring Prairie, Walworth County, some of our partners that we have the apprenticeships with for support, and whoever we can get together to support the district.
We even had people from open enrollment, right? I mean, we had various people and from all different townships, the villages, right? All the different municipalities. So again, I don't want to go into that, right? The first dialogue for the board to have is if wanting to work on continuing to reflect upon, we've had a vision, but we'd like to reestablish and make sure we're going in what direction.
Right, because things have changed a lot over the years, yeah.
Discuss that process.
All right. Yep.
And I don't think it's come at a bad time. I will say, right, and it could really come at a very good time. The balancing act to that is there's going to be, obviously, we are working diligently right now with, on the salary subcommittee, and we're gonna be involving the, representatives of the salary subcommittee over the summer months and fall, and with that, all three of them were appointed to these guys. And then, with the idea of next October will be an option for presentations of what's for the board to consider. I mean, the board may look, this is wonderful work, but we can't do anything, right? Or we're very interested and intrigued, and we need to make a decision. What the reality is, and I'm gonna be blunt, I don't know if all this has already been shared or not, but I'll share it. The idea is, the reality is, right, you're talking October for that, you know, there's a reason for that October. Because if there is any, decision to be made that's going to impact the salary structure, based upon the data presented and all the different, comparables, then that has to be known by October. Because we have to start utilizing that into the Baird model, forecasting models, to determine what's the deficits looking like with those structures in it, right? Because the board would have to decide, we're not gonna have a resolution in January. The board has to make a resolution in early January or any type of April operational referendum to our community. And so we would have that done in November and December. So there's a lot. I'm not saying this isn't important, I'm saying really, how can you go somewhere without a vision? So I get it.
Yeah.
I do want people to know, we're not going somewhere right now with no focus. We're going off of the vision that was established a long time ago, and we keep moving on it. So if a new vision has to be established to make some tweaks or massive changes, I don't dispute that. I think it's a great process. I would say, just remember on top of that, there's a ton of work being done on the salary subcommittee, a ton of work that'll be done toward determining an operational referendum in April, with the expiring, and we're in the midst of doing all the capital.
Yeah.
Referendum stuff like that. So it's not excuse making, it's just trying to make people aware of all
I
the things.
understand what's going on, yes.
So it's just making people aware, like, there's only so many resources to put all the time. That's all.
Society is changing, or the technical part of this is, education is changing so fast, and it's so different from year to year. And if you're not up to what's going on, you're gonna be left behind. I mean, and if you're at the forefront of it, it'll be to your advantage, you know?
I'll give you one example, AI alone.
Yeah.
AI alone.
Yeah.
You know, how is AI being utilized, what's the purpose of the AI in an educational institution to make it more efficient and effective? And does it meet its purpose, right? Not to just use it because of some highly trained tool, right? But, I mean, and there's a lot of people who are a heck of a lot smarter than me, that have completely different views on the use of AI.
Just think, if you were the only district that had ability for teach AI or to comprehend that, and nobody else had that, look how powerful that would be. I mean, that's just an example, you know.
If it's well defined with the purpose.
If you're first and it's good, I think I gave you an example a long time ago about Lee Iacocca and the minivan. He developed a minivan in the 1980s, and Honda, Toyota, they all developed minivans afterwards. But the guy that introduced it was Chrysler Corporation. They could never catch up to that. You know, he had the market cornered and caught everybody off guard, and they never caught up. Of course, minivans are not popular now, but that was the scenario back then.
Hey, who says
you
that?
know? So,
I hear you.
All right. Any other future items? All right, I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session for discussion of enhancement supplemental stipend compensation request, administration, and supervisory contracts per statute 118.246, teacher retirement benefit request, and discussion and appointment of an IHO for employee grievance as provided under State Statute 19.851B, 19.851C, 19.851F, and 19.851G.
I'll second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We are in executive